guys, how are you doing? This is my review for season 9 episode 15, Secrets. It's full of secrets. So first up, the case. I actually really liked it. I thought it was really interesting and funny. For the most part, it held my attention, which is saying a lot considering all the other stuff that was going on in this episode, namely the Wendy stuff, but we'll get to that later. So as far as case stuff goes, I really loved the scene in the evidence garage. It was hilarious. I love the part where it just gets too weird for Gibbs and he just like drops the shoulder pads like, what am I doing here? And leaves. And I'm also in love with the third last scene where they catch the bad guys. I love how Ziva's all, oh sorry, wrong number. I called the murderer. That was brilliant. And then the nerdy superhero guy knocks out Mr. Bronze Star and then Gibbs bows to him. Like he reciprocates the bow. Love it. So besides the case, a good chunk of this episode had to do with Wendy, and Wendy was of course, interwound with the case very well. So NCIS decides to entertain reporter Wendy, and one reason for that has to do with the case. The other reason for that is because it's Valentine's Day and Gibbs wants to play matchmaker. So he makes Tony Wendy's media liaison, which is a position kind of unheard of on this show, but thankfully Tony points that out, otherwise it would have kind of killed this subplot a little bit for me. Media liaison, is that kind of what JJ does on Criminal Minds? Sort of. Anyway, Gibbs totally gets off on playing matchmaker. I'm getting a sense that he's a bit rejuvenated after last week, and he wants to hook Tony up with the one that got away. Probably. One of my favorite parts of this whole episode was when Abby takes a picture of Wendy. It's so perfect. It's just like, you're important. And Wendy's face is like, did a 6-foot woman dressed as a cat just take a picture of me? Hey Wendy, welcome to NCIS. If you do decide to stick around, get used to the shenanigans. So, I was a bit surprised in this episode. I actually was not filled with a burning feeling of hatred when I watched Wendy on screen. Maybe Perry Reeves is just too likable, but I won't go so far as to say that I liked Wendy. She just wasn't as bad as I thought she would be. I did kind of like how she had Tony on edge for like the whole episode. Don't ask him because he's not hungry and he's definitely not pensive. And I love how Abby suggested that Tony might have been the one that put the bomb in Wendy's car. Abby and the team are very amused by Tony's apparent distress, and as a viewer, I'm amused by their amusement. So there was a kiss, and not surprising, but more importantly, there was a Harry Potter reference. Yes. I love how Tony's so awkward, obviously, when faced with his worst fear, children. I laughed out loud when the kid said the one where Harry wasn't kissing my mom. I gotta look up who wrote this episode, which I'm really bad at keeping track of who writes these episodes, but I gotta look it up because this was really well written. What I really did like about this episode is that it taught us something about Tony. Something big. He used to be like this hopeless romantic, and maybe he still is, but then Wendy broke his little heart. From now on, when I watch any of the older episodes where Tony's being like a full-on playboy, I'm just gonna be like, you poor damaged little soul. Stop being so hard on him, Kate. You don't know. You don't know. Speaking of Kate, did anyone else think that Wendy looked like a little bit like her? Maybe it's the hair. Like they're kind of like generally similar, like the same serial killer would target both of them, and I watch too many crime shows. That's a weird analogy. So Tony and Wendy. Tendy, Tondi. I like Woney. I'm gonna go with Woney. We're gonna call them Woney from now on. So I don't want them to get together, obviously. I mean, like Tiva aside, I just really don't like the idea of Tony getting back together with someone who left him the day before the wedding. Yikes. I feel like Tony deserves better than someone who did that to him. I'm very protective of Tony. So the scene at the end kind of confused me. I didn't hate the scene. It was a good scene, but there's a part in it. She's all, I can see into your soul, and you need to tell her how you feel. Is she talking about his feelings towards someone else, towards Ziva, towards herself? Because it sounds like she's trying to advise him to tell someone else about his feelings towards them. But then 30 seconds later, she's like, you're the one, and I'm ready for it now. Because I'm reading that it's kind of a mixed signal, but okay. So I kind of see things through the Tiva filter, because how I read that scene was like, tell Ziva you love her, if it doesn't work out, call me. Okay, so yeah, I guess not a lot to say about this episode as a whole. I kind of just wanted to talk about Wendy a bit. I mean, this episode was really funny. I thought it was really well written. I laughed a lot. It had a decent case. Wendy wasn't as horrible as expected. So I'm going to give this episode 4 calf pows out of a possible 5 calf pows. So what do you guys think about the episode, especially Wendy? She wasn't as bad as I thought. I don't like her, but I'm almost indifferent. So I changed my wall. I'm going to see how this video looks because I didn't have time to run a test. But if it works, I'm going to keep it. What do you guys think? And then 30 seconds later, she's like, by the way, my body is ready.